Thanks for allowing us to kind of take up some of your space in your last couple days of school. We're super excited to be here and talk about the incredible work that your school, AI Middle, is doing on the career exploration programming in middle school. So we're going to start first, everyone to kind of take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us what grade you're in as well.
Hi guys, my name is Solange and I am in 8th grade.
Oh, I'm Zuri and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Amneris and I'm in 8th grade.
All right, I'm Coach Kay Smith. I'm health education teacher and related arts department leader.
Awesome. Before we jump in, I would love, Coach Kay Smith, if you could describe a little bit about the incredible work that you all have piloted at
Sure.
AI this school year before we talk to these awesome students.
Sure. It was really important. Our principal, who happens to be out on leave right now, this was kind of her brainchild, Tasha Oliver, and it was determined that they'd really like to keep students in district, and a lot of students were leaving the district to go to other schools that were offering them more career readiness or different career pathways. And so part of that was kind of bridging that gap of what can we do to help keep kids in Red Clay, and it brought me back to, you know, as a college freshman, you're kind of major hopping, and that happens a lot in the pathways as well. And so if we can allow them to explore at the middle grades, then they can kind of get a lot of that out of their system and be a little bit more defined and refined on where they'd like to go. But central to our process was really elevating student choice and voice. So they didn't have any choice in the related arts programming. They were kind of put into whatever classes the system determined was a best fit for them. And so we worked hard to change that.
It's awesome. And it has been a really awesome year. I know we were just talking a little earlier about your experience kind of before AI implemented this and now this school year in 8th grade. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what has it been like this year? What have you really liked about it that maybe didn't really exist at AI before?
It's been hectic because like before we've never had like things like this, so especially in like health class we did a lot of like hands-on stuff, so it's been just cool and just like exciting to learn about things more hands-on.
More hands-on this school year in
Yeah.
8th grade. So what are some of the hands-on things that you got to do this year as a result of the program?
This year we worked on splinting and we've worked on like things like first aid.
Awesome. So that is in health. So you did
Yeah.
health-related arts.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was like splinting. I don't really know what that means, but health. Yes. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
We worked on like the tourniquet, like how to put on the tourniquet, and we did the how to use I don't know.
The Narcan.
Yeah, the Narcan. And stop the bleed too, and like CPR.
And you got certified in all of those
Yeah.
things as well as 8th graders, which is so awesome. And I see you're holding some things in your hands. Does anyone want to talk about that a little bit?
So like basically, this is our what's it called?
Capstone.
A capstone or like a resume portfolio, and it has like certificates and our resume and like some of the work that we did in health and stuff.
So you have a place where all of those certifications and everything that you kind of got to do hands-on lives, which a lot of adults don't even have. So that is a really great thing to be leaving 8th grade with. What about you? Do you want to talk a little about your experience
I'd
this year?
say, yeah, like this year, especially since in 6th and 7th, we didn't do a lot of the stuff that we did this year. And it's very exciting because the stuff that I have now will be very useful for the jobs I want in the future and for high school. So just being able to have stuff like this because not much many people have it.
Yeah.
It's just very exciting, and I love it.
Yeah.
I would love to talk more about that, actually. So it sounds like you learned a lot about future careers, but you also learned a lot about yourself, right, in this. So can you talk a little bit about that? And then I would open it up to other students as well.
Ever since I was little, I've always wanted to do, like, you know, medical stuff. And being able to have hands-on work and stuff that is going to help me in the future, it made me very happy. So I had changed from one of my other courses that I had, which was JDG, when Miss K told me that we were, you know, doing hands-on stuff and that I was able to change. It made me very excited because this is like really what I wanted to do. So it was just, you know, very exciting.
Yeah, and it sounds like something you're really passionate about, which is awesome.
I have the same experience, but I was originally in band, and I was like, I really want to be in health class for the full like thing, because I really love like all the health stuff. Like I watch all the shows and stuff, So, and like, I was just like, I know I can benefit from this, and I know like, I'm a hands-on learner, like I'm a visual learner too, but like hands-on, it'll help me more.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Originally, when we were like picking related arts, health was actually in my like last.
Oh,
in the back of my
really?
head, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But then I did eventually get in health class, and at first I was really thinking like, oh, how is this really useful? But I also want to be in the like medical career, but I wasn't really thinking about that. But I'm glad I did get put into this class, because maybe in the future, if anyone needs help, I can like be as helpful as I possibly can if anyone needs help. So I am really glad I got put in this class.
It's amazing. It sounds like you're able to like help, more like you said now, but also it really gave you some more insight about what you might want to do in the future, which is really exciting. So I'd love to build on that actually. So you all are in 8th grade, going to high school next year, which is awesome. And obviously, as you know, Delaware has Pathways programming, right, which a lot of the programming this year tried to connect to. So as you're going into high school, do you feel like this year in the programming that you did at AI, did it help you become more aware of what your options are in terms of pathways, or what potential careers you might be interested in? It sounds like you did, but I'm just curious about the connection to Delaware Pathways in high school. So one of the things that we're hoping that happens with this in Delaware is that all middle schools eventually do something similar to what you experienced this year in AI. And every school kind of has a different community, different approach to the way that they do scheduling and things like that. But hopefully making sure that every middle school student has experience getting to explore their passions, their interests, and connect them to future opportunities. So, it's a big question. If you had advice to other schools that aren't doing this right now, what advice would you give them to say, hey, you should do this for your students? What would you say to them?
I would say like, get your teacher, like bug your teacher to at least have some kind of program or like some kind of information, so that if somebody in your school or you in your school wants to be a surgeon or something like that, you can at least know a little bit, and like in high school you know more, and like even if you can't like get the stuff that you want in school, you can always look it up, and you could like go to different programs outside of school. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Right. I would just say that, it's better to be able to know what the future holds. So like being able to do stuff like this is very, good for kids like us, because in the future they won't be so lost. Like they'll know what they want to do and what is better for them.
Well, I just hope that the program goes to like different schools, because I think it's really, really, really important to know, because it can better you as a person, and like you can know what you want to do in the future.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And now we're going to switch out. We're going to have your amazing educators join us, and we can talk a little bit more with them about what it was like to do this for you all and with you all this year. Thank you so much, and good luck in high school. Enjoy your summers.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I am joined now by our amazing team of educators here repping AI Middle School, and who have done an incredible job with their pilot this year. Take a moment first to introduce yourselves, and then we can kind of get started.
I'm Kourtney Bastianelli. I am the music and performing arts teacher here at Ames, and also the diversity champion.
I'm Coach Kay Smith, health education teacher, related arts department lead, and lead mentor.
And I'm Bree Brown, school counselor at AI Middle, and part of the scheduling team.
Awesome. Well, I know Coach K. Smith talked a little earlier about kind of the history of like how and what you all were doing this year, but I'd love to hear a little bit more in detail. Can you describe kind of the pilot that you all launched this year? What does it mean for students? Kind of what is different about it compared to what you've done in the past?
So previously students didn't get to select their related arts. They were kind of just randomly assigned based on scheduling and health and PE requirement state needs. So that system totally changed this year because we noticed there were some inequities. So our multi-language learners and our C-setting students were not having equitable access to all of their related arts classes in that system. So we changed up the setting so that in 6th grade, every student gets 8 related arts, so they're marking periods, so we see them for 22 instructional days. In 7th grade, it's semester A and B day, so we see them for 44 instructional days. And in 8th grade, students have 2 capstones, so they have 88 days in each content area that they select so that they can really delve deeper into the content. And then to accommodate the different needs in our subjects, like the band and theater classes, because those are kind of split by one person, students in 8th grade were able to do a capstone on a rotating yearly basis as well. So students doing those programs or our MLL programs would have technically 3 capstones, but so they could at least access the other 2 outside of that 1 year-long requirement.
Awesome. So it sounds like a lot of scheduling changes went into play. Do you want to speak to that a little bit about this year?
I'm a scheduling hero.
We had to get creative with the scheduling. You know, you really got to think outside of the box in terms of how you can fit in some of those schedule restrictions. Like our ML students have a class that they have to take all year long, so that's where we had to get really creative and flexible with, you know, creating different schedules for different students, but allowing them to still fit into the program and be a part of the capstone projects and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot of extra work, but you know, we get paid extra hours to be here in the summer, so why not? And I think it went, you know, really well. It was nice to see the kids get to make those choices, and for our ML students, it really essentially doubled the exposure that they get to classes as opposed to the way we did it before. And it's also mimics, we mentioned being competitive with the VOTEC schools and some of the other schools out there. You know, when students go to a VOTEC school in their first year, their freshman year, they rotate through all of the different choices. And so we're doing something similar in 6th grade. We give them the exposure to all of the different choices, and then 7th grade they narrow it down a little bit more, and then 8th grade even more. So hopefully that helps build that competitiveness.
Related, and one of the things that I think has been tremendous to watch unfold this year at AI is just the team of folks that are leading this work, and it is incredibly teacher-driven, educator-driven, and I think that is a really unique kind of model that you all have really implemented and led with this year that I really would love to see other schools do with this work. So can you speak to a little bit about what it's been like to have this be an educator-led process and pilot, and how did you guys go about doing that?
Sure. So a lot of it comes from, you know, the administration team understanding and trusting that we want to do what is best for students. And so long as we're operating within that trust and we're always putting students first, then the admin team was like, yeah, go for it, whatever you need. So that's been a huge piece of this puzzle for us to be able to do that. The other side of that is that, you know, in the classrooms, we're in the trenches with the students and hearing from them what they like and what they don't like. You know, while also understanding we have our own set of standards and, you know, things that need to be done at the state level and the district level. And so kind of trying to find that balance of marrying those two while really heavily integrating CTE.
Yep.
Additionally, teachers had to go on a bit of a journey themselves because we're not CTE teachers. And then so that's, you know, we have our resident CTE experts that we were leaning on within our team. But it really required a whole buy-in approach from our department, our school leadership, our counseling team, and without them we wouldn't have been able to do this. So expanding it a bit more, we had a May staff training where we were able to train other staff and kind of let them see inside our classrooms and what we've been doing to push some of those experiences out into the gen ed classes as well.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about the training that you did with all staff,
Sure.
and what took part, what happened there?
Yeah, so we collaborated with our instructional coach and our pilot team. In addition, we brought in Dr. Galloway from the district. And so together we kind of formed this training and asked teachers to bring their unit plans or their curriculum maps to kind of decide, okay, if they're learning about motion, how can we tie that into the different career pathways? And so it turned into a really big brainstorming session where teachers were able to say, oh, well, this can fit over here and this can fit over here, and maybe we can bring in a guest speaker or a mechanic or, you know, in different things. So it was able to expand in that way.
And part of that training too is like us identifying what barriers are going to be in the way of teachers like getting on board with this. So like one of those we thought was resources, or, you know, asking teachers to put more on their plate to go find external resources. So instead, that's why we reached out to Dr. Galloway. We're checking out some online Pathful and Zello platforms, so things that we can provide to teachers through the grant to help make the work a little bit easier. So it's less like, oh, here's another thing you have to do, and more like, here's a really cool experience you can have in your classroom with your kids.
To enrich what the
Yeah.
units that you're already
You're
teaching.
already doing, right?
Right.
Because so
Yeah,
often it's just like
work
pile
smarter,
up.
not harder.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
no.
I think like in terms of getting buy-in from the teachers too, you know, the more teachers can connect the content that they're teaching to real life experiences that kids are going to have or want to explore, you know, the more buy-in you're going to get in the classroom. So why wouldn't they want that?
Right, absolutely. So we've touched on it a little bit in some of the question and responses here, but I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges in addition to the scheduling. I know that was a big one, but any additional challenges, and then maybe a success or two, that's something that you're really proud of after having gone through this pilot this year.
Sure. So one of the areas that we indicated or had realized was an issue after we started the work was in fact setting C. The setting C students had not been coming into our courses, and so we were able to make sure that they also had those course options they were able to select as one of the populations that happened to be, you know, seemingly overlooked in one way or another. Which was unfortunate, but a lot of that came back to our community of practice meetings that we did with the tri-agency that was like really having us kind of go through with a fine-tooth comb and say, okay, well, what are we missing or what is not happening, you know, trying to put ourselves in the shoes of certain students while also trying to connect with them and hear from them about what it is that they want. So that was kind of a challenge that essentially turned into a success. Similarly with scheduling and some of the students that you had interviewed earlier, sometimes last year when we rolled out the course selection form, we were a little late in doing so. And in that we had missed a lot of responses. And so some kids got scheduled by the system or kind of wherever they fit based on numbers. And students were able to advocate for themselves mid-year. And we were able to make those shifts, which is then going to lead to us creating a policy about it this summer for, you know, if a student is coming from a different district or out of state and some things like that. Yeah, so still some work to do.
Yeah, and then just the flexibility of like, if we're telling the kids it's okay to change your mind, we want you to explore, then we have to actually make it okay for them to change their minds, right? Like the student, like Zuri earlier, you know, she used to be in band but decided that wasn't a fit anymore. And, you know, that was okay. That was great because that meant she found her passion. So like taking that mindset into it is important.
Right.
And I think teachers being really flexible too with the scheduling. So for those students who did choose, because Miss Bastianelli is only one person, but teaching two different classes, you know, so if you're in band, you had that all year long, and then you had to be flexible with doing kind of like half of two other classes. And so teachers had to get flexible and creative with how they did that too. So how are we going to grade this student who's only here half of the time versus all the other students in this class who are here every single day? And so that took a tremendous amount of flexibility on their part, and, you know, maybe extra work and adapting assignments and things like that. So but they were so passionate about wanting to give these opportunities to kids that they're willing to do that, you know? So.
Yeah.
And even collaboration amongst teachers. We had some art students that had to finish up their capstone. Right, so correct me if I'm wrong, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so we were approaching the spring concert, which is the performance capstone and the art capstone, so we kind of combined them for an event. We're excited to keep that rolling, and the kids had some ideas for how to jazz that up next year. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But like going up into the capstone, some of the art students were like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna have enough time to finish my capstone. Can I go to art instead of rotating to your class for these various days? So talked to their teacher, we made a plan, we checked in with admin, and the kids were absolutely fantastic. They kept track of all of their assignments they needed to and got everything done. So it was great to see them advocate for themselves and then practice those real life communication skills with, here are my deadlines, here is how I'm going to get it done. So that was really exciting. It could have been a challenge, but it kind of turned into a glow.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I feel like I've heard that throughout, like, your responses as well as the students' responses earlier about, like, student advocacy and, like, speaking up for themselves and on behalf of themselves and advocating for what it is that they are interested in and what they want to see, or changes or feedback that they might have about what it is that they're experiencing here. So I'm wondering if we could actually talk about that a little bit. Like, what has been, like, student responses to this, and, like, how have you all adapted based on what students are looking for or maybe want to see different, as a result of what you've done this year?
So I've given out surveys kind of towards the end of the marking period. And I did that towards the end of capstone 1, and then I realized that I should be able to do that in the middle of capstone 2 so that I can adjust accordingly, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about the pilot is that, we do have the freedom and the flexibility to make changes as we go, and certainly as we learn more. And in doing so, I got a lot of valuable feedback from the students. They wanted to earn more certificates and things like that. So where they started out with 3 in capstone 1, I believe capstone 2 had 7 for different first aid techniques and things like that. But taking that survey piece, our school-wide team, our school-based pilot team has decided that we're going to be doing kind of like a standardized survey to roll out to students, and that should be happening regularly next school year so that we can really have a pulse on, the feedback from students and how to adjust accordingly.
So from your perspective, how has programming, or how have you shaped programming to really celebrate student identity and help students learn about their interests and passions?
So in the performing arts area, that was it expanded this year, so including theater elements, which students hadn't had access to before. So we have a student this year who, in their reflection, wrote that they really love learning about script writing, and they've been accepted at CAB, which is one of our art schools, for screenplay writing. So it's really cool to see them have that spark of, hey, this is something I'm interested and curious about, and then they take that home and they put in the work, and then to see them start to have that achievement in and outside of school with it is really exciting. And then just giving students more opportunities to be the ones creating. That was kind of the feedback that was the trend throughout for my classroom this year, was we loved being able to create something that was presented to our school community, and that was really powerful.
Yeah, for me, I think it goes back a lot to that advocacy piece and teaching students how to advocate for themselves as they're kind of discovering things. But specific to my class, I have a student who, has struggled through the years with a lot of behaviors, has not spent a lot of time in my class. But once he saw that we were working on first aid skills, his face just lit up. Lit up. He was super engaged. He got his portfolio all together. This is the student that I've been building with over a period of 3 years now, and really trying to get him to kind of focus in and get, some work handled or progress in that work. So to see him just light up like that and be super engaged was huge, and that wouldn't have happened without those hands-on skills. So, going back to listening to that student voice and choice in terms of, elevating ourselves as educators to meet the needs of our students.
I think too, going forward, that's a big student identity is a piece that we want to grow too. So, and exploring the different programs that we might want to use to pilot next year. I don't know if I can name them or not, but we're really looking for programs that allow students to take different and skills and interest inventories, because really sometimes you do have students who just have no idea what they want to do.
Sure.
And whether that's just because of lack of exposure or they just haven't ever thought about it, trying to give them the tools to explore who you are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do those things lend you towards, when you're thinking about future careers. So that's a part of it that we want to grow in the program too.
And to your point as well, when there's a student that indicates, or through use of an exploration program indicates that they want to do a pathway that we're not offering, right? So how can we then support that student in that? If it doesn't align with the district's vision for CTE or the pathways we have here at our school or the pathways we have in our high schools, what is it that we can do as a team to help support that student and match them up with the experiences that they need?
Right. And also supporting students and letting them know it's okay that you don't know what you want, right? It's okay. This is what this time is for. And I think you all have done an incredible job of giving them access to all those resources and helping them figure out, right? I'd love for you to kind of share, this is year 1 of the pilot is over. You're looking to grow it in lots of different ways, which is super exciting. And we also know that there are a lot of other middle schools out there that could learn from what you all are doing. So any advice that you would give to schools that maybe are interested in doing this work or haven't heard about this work before but would maybe want to do it? Like, what advice would you give them?
I guess the first step to me is like find your team, right? Like get your crew together that is passionate about this work and sees a vision, and then let them cook. Oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Like, you guys, so sorry. But in actual academic language,
You don't need to say that. We got it. Let them cook. Yeah, no. Let them do their thing.
but no, yeah, like everyone on the team was so critically, like everyone had different strengths, and that really helped the program thrive. And like taking time to ask why for everything, like it doesn't have to be the way it is.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to take risks. I mean, you know, instead of saying like, no, we can't do that, say, you know, how can we make this work, right? And just look at the different ways that you might be able to make it work, and just try it. Like, what's the harm in trying something new, right?
Yeah,
It would work.
Yeah. I would say to be prepared to pivot. Be prepared to pivot. That's going to happen often, but also give yourself some grace, because you're definitely going to make mistakes along the way. Our team certainly has, and then we take steps to rectify those mistakes, or you know, maybe we missed something and, you know, make adjustments.
Well, I think on that note, unless you have anything else that you want to add, I think we can wrap up. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate the incredible work you've done with students this year, and super excited to see what happens next year.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.